Welcome back, people. You're listening to The Introverted Nerd Watches. I am your host, Reese, and I'm back for more Fear the Walking Dead. And this week I watched Season 4, Episode 13, Blackjack. You might be able to tell from my voice that I did not enjoy this. I'm going to be fair. I didn't hate this episode, but I got problems with this season and specifically with this half season. So before I start complaining a whole lot, I want you to subscribe to the podcast. I really deserve a subscription for continuing with this because goddamn. But subscribe to the podcast. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. I'm even on Spotify and iHeartRadio. I am everywhere you get your podcast. So subscribe, rate and review the podcast for me. And I don't know. Let's get into this. Because blackjack. First of all, I don't know what the blackjack stands for. Like the blackjack, I'm thinking of is like the game, like 21 blackjack. So I'm like, was it about everybody taking a gamble? Morgan taking a gamble? I'm not really sure. I mean, people were taking a lot of risks in this episode, sort of needlessly taking risks, but I don't know that that has anything to do with blackjack. And I don't even know that I care that much, but, so yeah. This episode is Blackjack. I'm just okay. Overall, this wasn't a terrible episode, but it was another episode where it's just spinning wheels. Like we're not really moving. Like we got some of the group back together again, or Luciana is back with the group with Morgan. We saw everybody in this episode, which, I mean, I guess is a good thing. Alicia and Charlie were barely in the episode, but they were there. If you squint, you saw them. So, and then the garbage woman or the filthy woman or whatever the fuck you want to call her. I call her the garbage woman because I don't know. I just think the garbage woman sounds better. And yeah, so I call her the garbage woman. She's called the filthy woman. I don't, or apparently that's what they call her. I don't watch The Talking Dead. So, or is it called Fear the Talking Dead? Or is it just still The Talking Dead, that Chris Hardwick show? I don't know. Whatever. I don't watch that show because I have a real problem. I mean, outside of the fact that I think Chris Hardwick is like a real hack and he's just not funny and he's awful. I have real problems with the things they do on that show because do I really want to get into my whole Talking Dead thing? Okay, this will be quick. I don't like that they use the Talking Dead to explain shit that was supposed to be in the show. And I've never watched it for the Fear the Walking Dead, so this may be different, but specifically for The Walking Dead, stuff happens on that like people say names, like generally it's just like stuff they didn't put in the show, they like explain it. What really got me was Abraham's entire backstory was explained on The Talking Dead. It was not on the show. So, they explain Abraham's whole backstory and then they use that like it's canon. So as a fan of The Walking Dead, you're supposed to know the information that they give you about Abraham's backstory on that show, and you're supposed to use it like it's canon, like they put it in the actual show. So I have a real problem with them doing that, with them using that show that way, and I think it fucking sucks, and it's just really weak. So, yeah, that's just one of my problems with The Talking Dead. Thank you for staying for my TED Talk about The Talking Dead. Anyway, back to Fear the Walking Dead and this episode. So it was just, like I was saying, another episode of just spinning wheels and like nothing really significant happening, I don't think. Yeah, there's also, I mean, this feels like, it feels like Scott Gimple is just like jizzing all over this show, because this is basically like they're taking large chunks of The Walking Dead. And I don't like that either. They're trying to use June and John Dorie, at least in my opinion, they're using June and John Dorie the way they were using Glenn and Maggie back in season 4. This whole half season, or at least so far, has been the back half of season 4, on the road to Terminus and, after the prison fell. So yeah, that's what this has been. And I have just been seeing it all over the place. Especially like it's just like reusing everything from the Walking Dead. And I don't like it. In a lot of cases, I don't think it's earned. So yeah, your girl has real problems with it. On the plus side, though, I do have really good tea right now. If you care, I'm drinking salted caramel tea, and it tastes really good. And it's like really cold outside right now, so I'm taking a sip. And I also have a new tumbler, so for my hot tea. So these are the things that make me happy right now when the show is not doing its job. So Morgan is being I really don't like Morgan right now. He's really annoying. And I feel like Morgan is another thing that I think is on repeat, wheel spinning on repeat. Morgan is doing kind of the same thing that he was doing on The Walking Dead back in season 6 by trying to help the garbage woman. Morgan has decided, I guess he's back on his no-kill thing. And so I feel like the garbage woman is sort of a stand-in for the wolves. Like, she is almost exactly like the wolves at this point, to me. She is all about that chaos. She just wants to destroy everything. It's been a minute since I've seen the wolves, so they're not like at the forefront of my mind, but she's just very similar to the wolves right now. She just wants to, she's basically search and destroy, take everything from these people, destroy everything, and then, keep moving on. And that's kind of the wolves' philosophy. They just wanted to, their philosophy was just, the world is dying, we should let it. Or maybe Enid said that, but it's, basically the wolves' philosophy. She summed it up very nicely. So, and it's like we're 3-4 years in, I don't know at this point, but Morgan knows better. And I'm tired of him. I was listening to some other podcasts, and they were talking about how Morgan was brought to Fear the Walking Dead because I think it was Scott Gimple that told him that, they have more stories to tell from, the Morgan point of view. And he wouldn't get the time that he needed to tell those stories on The Walking Dead. So they brought him over here. They're not doing it, though. It's the same thing. It's the same Morgan. And Lenny James is a great actor. I love Lenny James. I'm kind of done with Morgan. the Morgan experiment is just not working for me on Fear the Walking Dead. Like I was done with Morgan on The Walking Dead. I just feel like we need to move on from Morgan at this point. I understand that you don't want, he's a great actor. You don't want to kill off a great actor like him. But if you don't have anything for him to do and you're just going to repeat the shit that he's been doing for the last, since when did he come back to The Walking Dead? The end of season 5, beginning of season 6, something like that. So we've been doing this for a few years now. And I don't know. It's like, why? Why are we doing this? It's not interesting to me anymore. There were a few funny moments in this episode. Morgan and crew still riding around trying to, do what the trucker polar bear wanted them to do. And, they're still dropping off those boxes. And rightfully, finally, the twins and Jimbo are asking Morgan like, yo, what the fuck are we doing? Like, can we get out of here? They speak to the garbage woman early in the episode over the radio, and she starts she kills Quinn, and she tells them that she made Quinn what he was meant to be, and he's not weak anymore. And, this was all in the previews from last week, so this is not anything new. She's been saying this for a while. And she tells them what she wants at this point. She doesn't want them leaving boxes because leaving the boxes makes people weak. She says Morgan is not weak, and she knows what he's capable of. And, she just wants them to stop helping people. And that goes against Morgan's philosophy. It was so stupid because, last week I was really like big on her, and she's like very good. She's, doing what they're asking her to do. She's a good actress. But the chaos thing, she's not the Joker, she's not that type of thing. And I guess they want her to be, but she's not, this ain't it. So, it was just so stupid. She calls them on the radio, and when they're, out looking for Quinn, which was also stupid. And she says Morgan's name, and Morgan's like, how'd you know my name? And I'm like, how couldn't she know your name? Like, the only thing she doesn't know is your goddamn social security number. Like, they've been talking over this radio nonstop. Of course she knows every fucking thing about them. She should know everybody's name. Turns out she doesn't know Morgan's name from him talking over the radio. She knows it because she's watched all of Al's tapes because she has Al's truck. And so, yeah, she's been watching the tapes, and that I'm starting to think, like, is this the only reason that the tapes are there? So that this woman I don't know. I'm done with Al's tapes. I'm kind of done with everything. I just not enjoying this show right now, and I don't want to be like that type. It's episode 13. We got 3 episodes left. God, and so I'm going to get through this, but this episode just really frustrated me. So Jimbo is another thing that just, I'm done with Jimbo. Jimbo is Eugene to me, except it's with beer, because he's always talking about how, they need him to make the beer, and it's all in his head, so they can't do anything to him. They need to bring him along. But my dude can't kill a zombie. He's afraid. It's like, guy, I cannot deal with another like cowardly Eugene type. I hate Eugene. I don't want more Eugene. And 3 years in, I just have to keep stressing that we're 3 years in. He's never killed a zombie. He's, Purvis walks up. I don't know how close any of these people are to each other, but apparently Purvis is like one of the fastest zombies in the Z-Poc, because my man Purvis got to this truck really fast. I don't know, and I don't even know where they are. So Purvis made it to them. He's freaking out, like he wants a gun and Wendell won't give him the gun. And cool thing, Wendell's chair is like all decked out. He has like spikes coming out of the back that he can like press the lever and the spikes shoot out so he can kill. So he can hook the zombie on, and then he can turn around and kill it himself, which is really cool. But I can see this going bad like at any time. Those spikes, whenever they want to kill Wendell, those spikes will not work. So yeah, Jimbo I'm done with. Jimbo can go the way of Quinn and die like really soon. Like the twins and Jimbo rightfully want to get away from all this. They want to go to Virginia, to Alexandria, to wherever. They just want to stop doing what Morgan is doing right now. And I just said how much I hate Jimbo, but I was like really on his side when he was talking to Morgan. Like, yo, dude, what was that woman talking about? Why does she think that she knows what type of person you are? What's going on? And Morgan won't answer the question. He says that he's in one of two times this gets said. He has some things to make up for, and so he won't tell them anything. They're getting rightfully upset, and I'm so on their side. And the funny part is that, what's her name? Sarah tells Morgan is like, yo, if you don't want to take me, I'm going to take this truck. And Sarah's like, do you even know how to drive this truck? Which I really liked. I'm finally somebody acknowledging that these big ass trucks aren't just like your car. You can't just get in like, oh, a gas pedal, accelerator, let's do this. It takes a little bit of skill to be able to drive, or just some knowledge to know how to drive these trucks. So, like Morgan doesn't know, but Al knows, and she says she'll drive it. And Sarah takes out her knife like, yo, you really want to do this? And Morgan smacks the knife right out of her hand with his stick. And she's like, oh, okay, change of plans. We're going to do the Morgan thing right now, or the Momo thing. Let's get on this truck. Let's do this. And it cracked me up. It was a really funny moment, but I'm like, girl, Wendell got a gun. Morgan got a stick. Morgan is not about that gun life. Shoot his ass, take this truck, and let's get the fuck out of here. Like, stop following Morgan. He's getting some shit that he doesn't. I wonder if it's arrogance on Morgan's part. Like, arrogance that he just needs to save people. He believes that he knows the way, and like the arrogance of believing that everybody is just going to come to his side if he just makes the right argument. And it's like, my dude, you can't save everybody. I don't know how often this has to be said, but you cannot save everybody. I mean, Quinn said it. It's been said on The Walking Dead a number of times. People have to make decisions. You cannot just you can't do what Morgan is doing. And I feel like this is a whole other wolves thing where he kidnaps the wolf and he tries to do the cheesemaker thing on him and it doesn't work. Everything goes up in chaos. Tons of people get killed. And, Morgan, the wolves are attacking the place. Morgan refuses to kill any of the wolves and he's just scaring them away. And it's like, Morgan, he's just so frustrating and it's not interesting anymore. I'm done with it. So let's move on to John Dorie and Strand. I'm glad to have these two characters back, but this is another thing. Like they begin this episode on there was a flash flood. They get stranded on this, island, in a ranger station or, a ranger station. They have a ton of supplies, food, everything. And they, Dorie is like the perpetual optimist. Strand is the pessimist. He thinks, why are we even doing this? Dorie has something to fight for. He's trying to get back to June. This is the thing that I was saying is not earned. I'm sorry. That one episode, Laura, was not enough to make me believe that they are just this great love and they just need to get back to each other. I mean, that wore thin with Glenn and Maggie, and you had like a couple seasons invested in them. We got like 6 episodes invested in John Dorie and June. Nah, dude. Sorry. No. It's not working for me. Like the whole, I'm just going to be John Dorie's, I'm just going to be so single-minded, so focused on, I got to get back to June. I got to do this. I got to do whatever I got to do to get back to her. I have somebody I want to fight in this world with. And it's like, I love you, John Dorie, but nah, just nah, dude. I can't with them. So they spend the episode, Strand, is just basically he spends the episode telling Dorie how foolish he was to even go out with him, how he should have stayed in the mansion with God's wine cellar, and that great Strand voice where he over enunciates, just being a pessimist, and he thinks he has nothing to live for. So yeah, that's his thing. John Dorie is like, he's the optimist. He tells Strand he needs to get back to June and Charlie because they're this ready-made family now. He found this piece of candy in his pocket, the licorice that June likes, and this is a sign. This piece of candy he holds up in Strand's face is a sign that he has to keep fighting, and that's what they have to do. So he spends the episode making bad boats, making like leaky rafts and boats to try to get across this water, to get across to the other side, to get to June, because that's what this is all about. Oh my God. So, they're not just impeded by the water. There is a giant alligator that's it's a giant, it's something like out of Jurassic World or something like that. This shit is, oh my God. So they finally get a sturdy enough boat to try to go across this water. And, Dorie has set up this whole alarm system type of thing where it's the horn that he got out of the car that he set up so that it will make enough noise to call the zombies to the water, so that to distract the alligator. I mean, it's a whole thing. to distract the alligator so that they can row across. And of course, the horn goes off. It stops working. The battery dies or whatever happens. And this was so ridiculous. So the horn stops, and the zombies are walking to the water. And when the horn stops, the zombies stop immediately. They're like, oh, I mean, it was so ridiculous. They stopped like right at the water. They're like, oh, horn stopped. Hey, it was two zombies. And the two zombies, they sort of like, they just sort of turned to each other like, okay, well, that's over now. Let's go do something else. Let's go do something. Like, really, the zombies just stopped. They're not like, once the horn stopped, they weren't like distracted by something in the water. Like, really? They just both turn around. Like, the horn stops. The two zombies immediately turn around and start walking away. And, this fourth, the alligator is like the smartest. He's the alligator is like the raptors from Jurassic Park. Like, he is like, he starts strategically attacking the boat the way that the raptors started attacking the the gate for weak spots and at Jurassic Park. It eventually gets to the point where the alligator busts a hole into the bottom of their boat. And John Dorie goes crazy. He wants to try to swim to the other side because they can make it. Strand is like, okay, fuck all that noise. I only came out here because I felt sorry for you. I'm done with this. Take out your gun, shoot your gun to call those zombies back, and we're going to swim back to this fucking ranger station. And John Dorie is like, no, we can make it. We can make it over to the other side. And Strand is like, hey, dumbass, you couldn't even row. Like, how are you going to swim over to the other side with a fucking alligator in the water? Stop this. And while I understand, like, just in general, I agree with the John Dorie way of thinking that you have to think positively in these situations. You can't give up. You have to keep fighting, blah, blah, blah. Agreed. But Strand was right in this situation. Like, you got a hole in your boat. You could, like, Dorie, when they were trying to paddle their way across, he's still hurt. He ends up dropping his paddle in the water. So it's like, we got to go back to where it's safer. I mean, and Strand wasn't saying it that way. Strand was being a dick about it, but he was right in this moment. So it's like, yeah, you go back to the ranger station, and you try to think of something new. Like, Strand wanted to go back, and he was just like, fuck everything. I'm going to drink, and I'm going to, wait until the water recedes. But I don't know. It just, the whole I need to get back to June thing is just not working for me. And what adds to it is that I'm not a big fan of June either. So as a character, so, she's whatever. What else happens? So they end up swimming back to the shore where the ranger station is. And John Dorie is like dejected. And I guess we're supposed to see that he's finally given up, and, Strand has finally corrupted him and infected him with his pessimism. And Dorie eats the licorice, the candy that he found in his pocket. So he's finally given up, blah, blah, blah. So they start the episode on the island, and they end the episode back on the island, and nothing's changed about their situation at all. We find out things that we already knew about Strand. Strand, he's depressed because he doesn't have anybody to look forward to. He's alone. And, Dorie asks him why he drinks so much. And he says that he drinks to forget. And, to forget that he has nobody to drink with. And Madison was the person that he used to drink with. They were drinking buddies. So, I guess this is mostly about Madison, but, she's been dead. How long has she been dead is what I want to know. I don't know. So, Dorie ends by eating the candy, sitting on the bank of the I was going to call it a river, but I don't even this flood, sitting on the bank of this flood. And Strand is drinking a single malt whiskey that he found in a car because he has reverted to season 1 Nick, because he was up on like this car that was stuck on like a hill, trying to get the back off of it so that like the canopy back off of it so that Dorie can make the boat that they were on. And he gets distracted by the liquor that's in that's in the car with this zombie, and it's ridiculous. He survives like this tumbling, the car like rolls down the hill and he survives, doesn't get bit by a zombie, doesn't like get it like even a concussion. He just is fine, and the whiskey doesn't break. Everything is great. And it's like Nick from the first season where he's so desperate for his drugs that he's laying under that bed, injecting, what was it, morphine into his, or oxy something. He was injecting himself like between his toes or something, like stealing medicine from sick people was what he was doing. And so Strand has like really fallen. I don't like this Strand. He was like kind of funny in this episode. I love Strand, but I need them to do something else with him because I can't with this. I'm so tired of everybody. And Luciana. Why is this woman on this show still? Like, that's what I wrote in my notes. The first thing I said when I saw Luciana, why is she still here? We don't find out how she survived the storm. She just did. We don't know how Luciana survives anything. How did she survive after she left the ranch? Nobody knows. How'd she get back with them? Don't know. Nobody cares. Madison saved her. That's all you need to know. Madison saved her. We know Madison didn't save her this time because her ass is dead. So yeah, I don't really care how she saved the storm, but I just think it's like funny that we come back to her and she's just sort of walking around still looking for Charlie. And she ends up running across this guy who's stuck in his car. He's been stuck there since the storm, and his name is Clayton. And we find out the big reveal, if you can call it that, is that Clayton is Polar Bear is, the guy that's been putting the boxes out at the mile markers. So we were all wrong. It wasn't Purvis, wasn't the guy. It was Clayton. And that makes more sense. He's like this big burly guy, and he's, his nickname is Polar Bear. So that makes more sense. And so Lucy is trying to help him. She can't get him out of the car. When she tries to like lift the car up off of him, he tells her the car is the only thing holding him together. So he's basically going to die there. And she's just so desperate to help because, once again, let's all say it together, I have things to make up for. It's the exact same phrase that Morgan says, and it's like that's not really a common phrase. So I need to, like, I have things to make up for. Like, ugh, it's real. It's not even creative. Like, come on, you guys. So, like, this Lucy thing was just like, I don't know how many minutes this was. This was just a long, just a long time wasted on her. Who I want to be interested in, like a woman of color who is like, who started off as kind of like a badass, but is just so diminished now that she's barely a character. I don't know why she's here. And she spends the entire episode trying to find Clayton some beer because that's his last wish, since she can't get him out of the car. And she can't find anybody for him, family or whatnot. His last wish is to have a beer. And what a coincidence. Quinn has been putting beers, not Quinn, Jimbo has been putting beers in all of the boxes now. So if she can make it to one of those boxes, she has a beer. And what happens? She makes it to a box and she finds him a beer and it makes him happy. Blah, blah, blah. Oh my God. This was just so useless. If you wanted to know, if you just had to know who was delivering the boxes, like, well, I don't know why it wasn't Purvis. We didn't really need this guy. I guess they just brought him here because they didn't have anything to do with Luciana, and they needed to bring her back at some point. So it's like, yeah, give her this guy. And he tells a whole story about how he tried to escape from the world before everybody died, before the Z-Pac. And once everything went to hell, he figured out that he had done the wrong thing, and since he didn't help anybody before things went bad, he could help people after they went bad. So that's what he's been doing by putting out the boxes. This is just so, like, do we need him to tell this story to explain this? And Luciana, this dumbass, didn't even get it. They're talking over the radio. And he's telling her this story over the radio, and she's like, after he says this, she's like, what does that mean? And he actually breaks it down and says, and I think he rolled his eyes, the way that I did. I was like, yeah, polar bear, I feel you. He's like, this bitch, like, really, you don't get the story I just told? But she's like, he's like, Lucy, just because you couldn't help me doesn't mean you can't help other people, because she needed that explained to her. Like, the story was clear, Luciana. I mean, just because she's useless doesn't mean she has to be stupid. Anyway, one interesting thing, I guess maybe, is that he might know the garbage woman. When Lucy asks him if there's anybody, looking for him or, that he might want to see, and he says the only person that might be looking for him is the only person he doesn't want to see. And I'm like, okay, it's kind of clear that that's the garbage woman. Because when we hear her on the radio, she calls for polar bear. So, she was obviously looking for him. Like, when Morgan heard her, like, back in, I don't know, whatever episode Morgan was at, that, like, the Quickie Mart. So I want to know what she is to him. Like, is she his wife or something like that? Like, if they were together, like, how did she fall, like, so far off from his message? Because that bitch is crazy. So I want to know how, what happened to her that made her this way. Anyway, Lucy gets him a beer. She ends up, she's also one of those people that likes to talk on the walkie-talkie, like it's a goddamn cell phone, talk into the nothingness, hoping that somebody hears her. So, when she's talking on the radio, she says, whoever's out there, whoever left these boxes out here, I just want to say thank you. You really helped, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And Morgan calls back because he recognizes her voice, and, he comes to pick her up. And Polar Bear has been keeping like a bunch of journals about where he's been storing stuff and, his whole operation. So he gives those to Lucy and she gives those to Morgan. And, they're all back together. Like, these people, Lucy is back with Morgan and Al and June. And it's like, but they're not really a group. Like, this worked in season 4 of The Walking Dead. These people that were all split apart and coming back together. This worked because they were all like this really close-knit group at the prison. And you wanted to see them get back together. Lucy has zero connection to June, Al, Morgan, and definitely not the twins and Jimbo. Like, she has zero connection to any of them. So, like, I mean, they barely know Morgan. They barely know each other. So frustrating. So, the final thing that happens is Charlie is out there repeating Alicia's mistakes because Charlie starts calling out on the radio, looking for people. And Alicia snatches the Alicia snatches the radio from her and is like, that could be a trick. That could be, somebody could be trying to set us up. And it's like, yeah, Alicia, we all know you're having flashbacks to when you were the dumbass speaking over the radio. So yeah, but it works out for Charlie because Morgan calls them back and he's telling Alicia that, we're helping people, just doing the Morgan things, giving too much information out over the radio. And I guess they just, everybody has short-term memory loss because they all forget that the garbage woman can hear all of their conversations. So she hears Morgan saying that he's still out there helping people. And she's like, see, Morgan, I warned you. I told you that she tells him, I gave you the chance to be strong. And she basically telling him, like, you disappointed me and I'm going to fix your ass. And Morgan gets out here doing his whole Morgan sermon, and he's it's so stupid. He's like, helping doesn't make you weak. It makes you strong, and I'm still going to help people, and I'm going to put out these boxes, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to help people, and then I'm going to come back and help you. And it's like, Morgan, this woman does not give a shit about your whole Morgan thing. Like, she does not care. She does not want your help. Things aren't going to work out the way that you think that they are. And she basically comes back to Morgan like, no. She's like, I'm going to make you strong because you lose people, then you lose yourself. And she rolls up on them in Al's truck and pulls out those guns and starts shooting. And I'm like, okay, this is crazy. She watched Morgan's video. Like, what? I don't remember what Morgan said on that video, but he didn't give out a ton of information. But I guess she just so identified with the person she saw on that video, or the person that Morgan was describing on that video, that she's like, I gotta have that person back. So I'm just going to come out here and I'm going to kill all his people. And we'll just be this crazy couple running around the countryside, or just running around Texas. Anyway, that's how the episode ends. her shooting up the side of the truck. And yeah, that's the end. Morgan is like, I need Morgan to learn a lesson. I really do. I need him to remember back to the wolves, to trying to save the wolves, and how that didn't help anybody, how that got a ton of people killed. I mean, and no, we didn't care about that because it was a whole bunch of those useless Alexandrians and nobody liked those people. But I need him to learn this lesson because Morgan never learned the lesson, and he, after that whole thing with the wolf that tried to save Denise after he kidnapped Denise, he like Morgan tried to take credit for that, like, I knew that this person could change, and he fed that bullshit to Rick about how saving the wolf ended up saving Denise, and it's like, like Rick didn't call him on that bullshit, but that was complete bullshit. That whole story about how Morgan capturing the wolf is actually save Denise so that Denise could save Carl. God rest his one eye having soul. So he Morgan tried to sell that bullshit back in season, what was it? At the end of season 6 when he went to look for Carol. But it's like, no, that is not the way things work. Morgan has to start paying for some of these mistakes. He can't keep doing what he's doing and not facing any consequences, because Morgan didn't help the wolf. The wolf helped Denise because of Denise. Like, Morgan was just annoying. Like, after Morgan's attempt to save the wolf, to change his ways, the wolf knocked him out, or I believe knocked him out, and kidnapped Denise. And Denise saved herself. Like, Morgan is just such a fuck up. I'm just so frustrated. I'm sorry, you guys. Don't hate me. I mean, like, if you're still enjoying this show, I want you to enjoy it. I'm not enjoying it. I'm done with this show after this season. And like I said, this wasn't the worst episode, but this was not. I didn't enjoy it. I don't like this show turning into The Walking Dead. It's not supposed to be that, and it's just slowly like pulling over things about The Walking Dead. It's like, we already did this in The Walking Dead. We need them to do something different. And if they're not going to do that, I mean, we're already watching, like, The Walking Dead really sucks right now. So I don't know. Whatever. I'm done. So, follow me on social media. Like, I'm on Twitter at NerdTrovertPod. My personal Twitter is, at the Miss Introvert. And I've been watching Iron Fist, and I'm live tweeting Iron Fist. So follow me at NerdTrovertPod. Use the hashtag NerdyWatch, and so if you're watching Iron Fist, you can come over there while I live tweet it, because that has been like a pretty good second season so far. On Instagram, I'm at TheIntrovertedNerd, and like the Facebook page at facebook.com/TheIntrovertedNerd. If you want to send me feedback about the show and you want to defend any of this stuff, or, commiserate with me, send it to theintrovertednerd@gmail.com. And if you want to listen to my back episodes on Saved by the Bell, or Black Lightning, or Cloak and Dagger, go to theintrovertednerd.com and you'll find my whole back catalog. So until next week, everybody, later.